Welcome to The Golden Bachelor. Okay, after a 3-year wait, I could not be more excited. And 4.3 million people tuned in, not including streaming. These are some of the best numbers we've seen since Matt James' season. So exciting for the marketing, the crisper editing. Let's dive into all things Golden Bachelor. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Diane Strakowski, licensed psychologist and someone who comments on all things Bachelor Nation. But this season has me feeling a whole different way. Not only have we been anticipating it, the marketing is great. 2 New York Times articles are featuring this. Why? They're capturing a whole new audience, and I'm just all over it. The boomer audience. 27 million people watched The Golden Girls because they love it. And we want to know that you can find love at any age. And so I just think the show is brilliant. Now, before we even get into that, I'm going to do a little recap about the women. I want to share a little bit about my own personal story, if you don't know. But my story is that I found love a little later in life, more like a bronze bachelorette, not a golden bachelor. But I married a man, my husband Lyle, who was a widower. So I'm getting and seeing a lot of comments about Gerry. Oh, he's not ready for a new partner because he cried on the show. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. Everyone, their grief is different. But I know from personal experience that there's something very different is happening here when you date and then maybe marry a widower. And I want to talk about that. So my husband Lyle, he lost his wife 4 years prior to when we met. I'll call him the Silver Bachelor because he was a little younger than Gerry, of course. But people are saying that, they're still going to be thinking about their first person, and that's not necessarily true. We know, I want to talk about the brain and love, but we know that you can find love at any age. And just because you've been in love with the love of your life doesn't mean you don't have a second love of your life. It's all about just creating space for a new person. And to be sad about your late wife is not an indicator at all about how you're going to feel about the new one. So let's talk about the brain and love, because I think there's just some important things here. People come to my channel to learn some things about psychology, about relationships, about attachment theory. We're going to get into all of that. But think about your brain and love, because here's something really interesting a lot of people don't know. Your brain does not know how old you are. Your brain doesn't know time. This is why in trauma, it's hard to know what was then versus now. That's oftentimes what we say. That was then, this is now, to help anchor you. But when you're falling in love, do you know whether your brain is 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70? No, it doesn't. We don't have anchors for time. And the experience psychologically of falling in love, you get an increase in dopamine and serotonin, which makes you feel good. Dopamine, the feel good drug, neurotransmitter. So your brain doesn't really know how old you are. That's why when you're falling in love, it's the same idea. You feel vulnerable, but you feel giddy. You feel young again. And who doesn't want that? So much to be excited about. Now, what's different about falling in love? Because your brain, it's similar. What's different? Well, as we age, hopefully we have more self-awareness and we have more confidence. And that's what I'm hoping to see in this Golden Bachelorette, because we're no longer like competing with other people. Can I steal you for a minute? Does he like her more? It's more about holding space for other people. But you have usually the confidence because you've lived life, right? You've had love and you've lost before and had grief and loss and children. And no, maybe I can't jump into that bunk bed because I've had a knee replacement. But I also know who I am and I know who's going to be a fit for me. And so therefore, we're not going to see the same, I don't know, cattiness, because this is not Bachelor 2.0. This is something entirely different. And that's why I just wanted to weigh in to talk about what I'm really hoping are going to be more complex conversations that we have that include other people, families, lives, retirement, money, children, grandchildren, sex, and all of the usual things. But what I think is going to happen, and why I talk about attachment theory on my channel, is that when you are falling in love, all the same insecurities come out. Like, do they like me as much as they liked their late wife? That's a new one here, right? When you know that somebody married the love of their life and then lost that person, of course you can feel a little insecure. And I felt a tinge of that, but I know my husband had dated someone prior to me, and that person really felt insecure that they were going to be compared to their late wife, to my husband's late wife. But it's up to the partner just as much, and I'm putting this on Gerry too, like it was my husband Lyle, to make you feel safe and secure, that they're not comparing or contrasting. But this is a whole new relationship, and everyone gets to start over in that new relationship. That's where the joy is. That's where the love is. Okay, so let's start and talk about the episode itself. Before we even get to the limo entrances, we've seen this before, but Gerry's like putting on his hearing aid, and then suddenly you can hear. Excellent job on production. And it's a slower pace somehow, but even though it's shorter, we've got the images of him looking in the mirror, talking about his wife. He has a picture of her there. The episode is giving credit to Roberta, his late wife. There's just a nice way that we're getting to know him. And so you want to hit the protect Gerry button because you don't want to see him get hurt. But we get a little bit of backstory, and that's just lovely. When the limos do start, we see Edith come out in that gorgeous gold dress. She does the little popper. It's like, let's get this party started. Then we have Ellen. She comes out in that beautiful blue dress, and she cheers to her friend Roberta. So lovely. She credits her friend Roberta, who'd passed. They used to watch the show together. Sandra, what about the red dress and the F-bomb? I'm like, woo, okay, that's spicy. Love Sandra. She's, I think, in her 70s. My gosh. Then we have Leslie, who makes a grand entrance with the grandmother, the walker, and yet she's got this sexy dress. She rips off her wig and says, no, I don't need any help. We'll get to Leslie. So interesting. And then we have Faith, who drives up on her motorcycle in her pink dress. Wow, she's going to be a sassy one to watch. And Teresa, not afraid to be bold. It is her birthday, and she comes in her birthday suit. We see her change later, but love that for Teresa. And then there's April. I had my eyes on April. She's a therapist, but she comes and clucks like a chicken, does that little chicken dance. What a rockin' little body. And then she says, my eggs are fresh. Oh my goodness. Really, really sweet. Susan, she's comfortable with 6 inches. Okay, Susan. Okay, she's the Kris Jenner type. And Aunt Chippy. Okay, Aunt Chippy, who's Jimmy Kimmel's aunt. Love her. That was just so cute. But what I love is Gerry is just laughing, and he's got that little cackle, and he just is so warm and welcoming to all the women, and they just seem like that they're all together. Okay, now then we all come into the mansion, and Gerry has his glass of OJ. How wholesome is that? We're like, oh, Gerry, so cute. But then we see these conversations happen. The Indian woman, love her Indian sorry, that she says, well, my daughter thinks that you are dope. And he's like, well, I do have Riz. I'm like, oh my gosh, Gerry, so cute. And Ellen, Then we have Natasha. Who could forget? Natasha comes in her flapper dress, but she's just laughing. She is a pro-aging coach, and that belly laugh, and Gerry's with her, couldn't have been sweeter. The person that really stood out for me was Faith. Faith sings a song, and it's not like the cheesy Jed where you're like, oh gosh, is this for his singing career? But it feels so authentic and so genuine. And when she turns to Gerry and says, how do you see yourself for the next 30 years in your life? Oh, I could feel Gerry's heart melt. My heart melted. I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman Faith, I think she's going to go far. So, and we know that because she gets the first impression rose. That was sweet. Some other sweet moments. We have Teresa again. She's another widow. She's 70 and it's her birthday. And there's that cupcake exchange. So sweet. And we know because we see the promos that she's going to get a one-on-one date with Gerry. And they're going to talk a little bit more about what they have in common. But what didn't we see? We didn't see any villains. We didn't see any women being upset. We saw all the women joining in. I think it was Leslie who was dancing with him, and all the women joined in dancing too. So at the end of the night, then unfortunately we see Patty, Matt James' mother. She was the tall woman who looks like Celine Dion. She went home. I just didn't see a connection there. Some people were claiming that she's going to be the Golden Bachelorette. I just don't think we have enough of a connection. And to be honest with you, in Matt James' season, I felt like she was a little negative about relationships. So unless we were to see something different. So Renee goes home, the cheerleader. She was adorable. Marie, Pamela, Sylvia, and Anna. Those women unfortunately go home. And there's Gerry, like with a tear that he has to send these women home. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen that before. So follow me for all things Bachelor. Here's another treat I have for you, and I want you to look in the link below. I have a fun game. I'm going to call it Golden Bachelor Bingo. Check it out. Follow along. I've got it on my Instagram page. If you're not following me there, Back to Love Doc. You can look at it, the link in my bio. Play along. I want to see who gets bingo here because I've got fun, wholesome things like when someone gets emotional or when they play pickleball, and we're going to play Golden Bachelor Bingo. But let me know, who is your front runner at this point? What were the moments that you just loved? What are you looking forward to? Are you a first-time viewer to the series? If you are, welcome to Bachelor Nation because I think this is going to be one of the best seasons yet.